Et qu'est-ce que tu dis?
Vandermeer et Rubbia.
Ça y est, qui c'était?
Vandermeer.
C'est Simon Guildet?
Oui.
Madame, Monsieur, bonsoir. Aux portes de Genève, le CERN, Organisation européenne pour la recherche nucléaire, est à l'honneur et à la fête aujourd'hui puisque ce sont deux de ses chercheurs, un Italien, Monsieur Carlo Rubbia, et un Néerlandais, Monsieur Simon Vandermeer, qui se sont vus décerner aujourd'hui le prix Nobel de physique. Alors, qu'est-ce que ça vous fait aujourd'hui comme impression d'être prix Nobel dans un domaine tel que la physique, qui est un domaine très spécialisé, très avancé?
Je suis très ému et je me sens très honoré d'être dans une compagnie vraiment très brillante. Je ne comprends pas encore.
I think I first met Carlo Rubbia in 1973 or thereabouts. This was around the time when the Gargamel experiment at CERN discovered the neutral currents. And Carlo Rubbia at that time was one of the leaders of an experiment on neutrino interactions at Fermilab. And so he was also involved in looking for neutral currents, and there were various meetings, various discussions about whether Fermilab had neutral currents or not. And I remember, meeting Carlo Rubbia on that occasion.
I started studying physics in 1955 at the University of Pisa. There is a kind of a college there called Scuola Normale Superiore, and I was a student, so I was a student of first year there, and Carlo was in the third year, so that's the first time I met him, a long time ago. And well, he was already quite remarkable as a student. In particular, in the lab, he knew techniques of particle detection at a very high level, and he passed all his examinations with top marks. So it was obvious that he was an exceptional student at that moment already.
I can say that our institute in Aachen has a long collaboration with Carlo Rubbia already 30 years ago, even more. And we met him frequently there. The first time we worked intensively with him was obviously UA1. I was there from the beginning in UA1, and Carlo has selected something like 30-40 people around him, and we were discussing how to do this experiment, and we had a very intensive time to work together. This is different than the collaboration nowadays where you have thousands of physicists. At that time we were working very closely.
The first time I saw Carlo Rubbia was in his office at Harvard University. So I thought he was going to talk to me a lot about the UA1 experiment, and he said, look, come, and we need a lot of help, we need young people, so you're welcome. But right after that, he started talking to me about the next experiment he would do at the Tevatron at Fermilab, and I was surprised that he spent more time talking to me about the next experiment than about the one that he was preparing, which was a major one, but that shows that he had already his mind on many other things. So.
The dream of physicists has been so far the one of understanding nature and understand the lower natures in their basic structure.
The new neutral current interaction, in fact the old weak interactions, all had to be mediated by the exchanges of massive particles. And this is an idea that had been around for decades, but these discoveries of the 1970s really put it in focus and said this is the thing which we need to know whether it's true, to confirm or to refute this whole theoretical edifice. And so this was the importance of the W and the Z discovery, to really confirm that this set of revolutionary ideas were really correct.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer quelle était la part du travail dans votre collaboration entre vous et M. Rubbia qui partage ce Nobel avec vous?
C'est le professeur Rubbia qui a fait l'expérience proprement dit, où on détecte les particules qui sortent des collisions. C'est moi qui ai eu l'idée qui a permis d'emmagasiner les antiprotons, de stocker, les accumuler, disons. Et la machine qui a bâti pour ça, j'ai coopéré avec les gens qui ont fait cette machine.
The machine was really the key to the success. It was not so much the sophistication of the detectors, it was really the machine. Once you make proton-antiproton collisions at that energy and with that luminosity, it's almost child's play to find the W and the Z.
I would give a lot of credit, in particular to Leon van Hove, who was research director at the time, but also to John Adams, who was co-director general, for seeing that this was something which was feasible and taking what was quite an adventurous decision to push ahead with it. And I could well imagine that there might have been a less brave director general who would have said, no, this is too risky, I'm not going to go in that direction.
On the French site, the SPS control room was preparing the main accelerator. Back in the anti-proton control room, the pioneering anti-protons were being made ready. At the detector site, they had to make sure that their equipment would register collisions if they were successful in getting protons and antiprotons to circulate in the ring. On that day, CERN pulled out all the stops, and to good effect.
Hello, Lee.
Hello, Rubbia. Are you ready for another shot?
Oui.
It's coming in a minute. Yes. Antiprotons now.
With surprising ease, protons and antiprotons were made to orbit, and indeed collide, within the SPS accelerator. A feeling of celebration was in the air.
What happened is that we were all expecting that Carlo and van der Meer would get the Nobel Prize. This was a well-deserved Nobel Prize. Without them, I don't think that one would have had the collider and one would have had the UA1 and UA2. There was a general skepticism, in particular among the theorists, that one would be able to see the W and the Z at the collider. So the other merit of the collider was to show that you can do excellent physics with a proton-antiproton or a proton-proton machine. And I think that it was thanks to the success of the collider that we are now going to have the LHC. The LHC is a proton-proton machine. If it had been proposed 25 or 30 years ago, probably it would not have been accepted because people thought that the physics that you do with these machines is dirty.
I think that van der Meer and Rubbia got the Nobel Prize absolutely correctly. In the sense, van der Meer has made the antiproton storage possible. Without him and all his discoveries, which he did even at the beginning at the ISR 20 years or 10 years before, he has opened the field technically from the machine point of view that such an antiproton accumulation ring can be built. So that's something completely new. And the second thing is, without Rubbia, who got the collider through, who got the storage ring through, and who got the experiment through, he is such an outstanding person that if you want to give it to someone, it can only be him. I spoke with several Nobel Prize winners, and whenever you speak with a Nobel Prize winner, they have only one idea: to get a second Nobel Prize.
If Carlo Rubbia was an animal, what kind of animal? So I have a choice between a mouse and an elephant, somewhere in between. Which animal has the intensity of pursuing a task, of day and night pursuing a task? Il y a très peu d'animaux qui sont intelligents.
Hippopotamus. Well, first of all, because a hippopotamus is quite large, and secondly, because a hippopotamus can be quite dangerous.
If he would be an animal. Something in the order like a wolf or something I could imagine, because leading, being aggressive on one side, but on the other hand trying to care for a whole community.
An animal? Well, I think he would be the lion, I don't know, the king of animals. When he gets an idea and he is really a driving force, he's extremely demanding not only on himself but also on the group and his collaborators, and whereas somebody else would come to the construction of the detector in, say, 2 years, he would try to do it in 6 months.
You know, somebody once said that Carlo could move mountains, and I think I've never seen somebody with somebody else with such a strong determination. When he decides that he wants to do something, he goes all the way, and despite all the difficulties, he gets there. Yeah.